Hello, welcome to the fundamentals of Microsoft Office Word. So, yeah, let's get started. So, this is a Windows PC, and remember we have a few ways of how to access our Word. And the first step is you can come here to the search down here, and then you type in Word. So when you type in Word, you will see a small icon on your start here, and then you will click. When you click, of course, Microsoft Word will open. Then you can start doing your work. Or the easiest way many of you guys use, someone will just right click on the desktop, and then proceed to new down here, and then you'll have more options. It's a huge list, and when you see it has like the default some of the office documents, but for this case we are looking for Microsoft Word. Here it is. Then when you left click to open that already, you will see that the document creates itself here in the desktop, but without a name. It is just a new Microsoft Word. So you go further, then you double click to open, and then you start. So for today I want us to have a look at this a few practical steps, and this is the Microsoft Word document, and then we have smaller tabs: the home, the insert, the draw, the design, the layout. Those are called tabs, Microsoft Office tabs. And then down here, this is called a ribbon. It is called a ribbon. And then we also have a ruler right here, and then we also have a ruler up here. That one is the ruler. And then this is your page, your working page. So when you look further a bit, you can see down here we have the number of pages, like how many pages have we used, even the number of words, even the language. And then another important one is we have these three features. These three features, they really change the way how you view your page. For example, when you go to read mode and you click, you will see that the document covers the entire screen. And then when you go back to the print layout, this is the normal one that we use. And then you can also decide to view in the web layout. Web layout, that's how it looks like as well. But for our case, we use the print layout. And then another crucial one is this zoom in and zoom out. You can either decide to decrease the page according to the way how you want it, or you can always increase the page according to the way how you want it. But the most default setting is that you see this little line in between here. That is where we are supposed to increase our percentage. So you just click here once, and then it goes. So when you see that the little number is going to 103, it has to be to 100. 100 is the default one. All right. So cutting things short, we are going to have a look at the home tab. But before you go to the home tab, there's a file tab, which is always the first when you open a Microsoft Word. So this file tab has a lot of things that we shall see in the future here. For example, printing, saving, exporting to PDF, the information about the document, sharing, your account, your options. All these ones we shall see in the future. And then up here, of course, good afternoon to everybody. And you have a new blank document, and then you have templates. So templates are like designs already that are made for you, waiting to fill in what you want. So you can always use a template. For example, you want to design a CV, you want an adjacent resume, you want an essential letter, you want a chronological letter, you want a blog post. So these things are already designed, waiting for you to fill in your what you like, your credentials. So yeah, they are called templates, and they are they are good to use anytime if you like. And then when we go back to file again, we see that you have some Word documents here. These are the documents that someone has been working on, you know. For example, I last worked on a document 3 minutes ago, yesterday, Friday last week, Thursday last week. So this one shows the recent ones that you have been working on. But for us, whenever you open up a Microsoft Word, you always use a blank document. A blank document. So you come here to blank documents and click. So you'll have a very clean and fresh new page of the document. So as I told you, we are going to talk about the home tab, and then next time we shall talk about the insert, the draw, and then other things else. So here on the home tab, I am going to focus on the most important default tasks, or the most important points. They are the ones I'm going to focus on today that we always use in our daily life. There are others that we don't use. For example, Copilot, you already have it in your phones and your laptop. ChatGPT, you always have it in your phone and your laptop. Add-ins, you may not need add-ins. Editors, you may not need editors unless if you want to check your spelling is correct. So many of these ones we do not use them. Even the editing and the dictate, we do not use them. Even the styles. So starting from here, from styles down here to voice, add-ins, we may not use these ones. But the most important ones, they are here on the font and on the paragraph. These are the default ones that we use even on the clipboard. So, take an example. I want to type something, for example, my name. So, you can always use your keyboard and you type your name or anything that you like to give a try. And the first thing we always use when we are done typing a text, because we cannot use Microsoft Word without typing text inside. No, texts first, and then yeah, you can start the editing. And as I told you earlier, you see down here now, I've written 2 words. So each word you type, Microsoft Word will count each word you type. Now you see I have 3 words. So the basic steps that I want us to see here are: number one, we always have what we call a font language, this one, or a text language, this. So whenever you are opening Microsoft Word, or whenever you're using Microsoft Word, and you point your mouse to something, you will realize that the computer will tell you what that means. For example, if I push my cursor slowly here, you will see the computer tells me that is a bold, and the shortcut from the keyboard is Control plus B. And then the explanation is make your text bold, right? So let's give it a try. And remember, after writing your your text, uh, after writing your text, you always need to highlight first before you do any changes. You always need to highlight. For example, if you are going to increase the size of the words, you are going to change the language, you are going to bold, you need to highlight first. Otherwise, if you do not highlight, things will not work out. To highlight, you always click. If you want to highlight, something in a Microsoft Word. Highlight a text in Word. You long press your left key on the mouse and then drag. Oh, sorry, and then drag. Okay, so you long press. What I mean by long pressing is that on your mouse you have two buttons, the left side and the right side. So you long press from the mouse on the left side. Long pressing is, I mean, you press without removing your finger on that left button of the mouse, and then you drag, you move slowly, slowly, slowly. So by doing that process, you are highlighting. Okay, all right. So after you have got that, uh, we highlight. That's what I said in the beginning, that we highlight, and then we try out these uh, features that we have or that we need, you know. So every time you need to design, you have to do that. So how do we make our texts bold? Like having big black colors, we bold them. So what we do, we highlight and then we go to the B letter and then we click B, letter B. So you will see that our texts are now black. They are not original. And then when we want to remove the bold as well, still we highlight and then come back to click on letter B. So we shall have our text go back. And then you see the next option is to use the keyboard, which is Control B. But first you have to highlight again. You highlight, I'm sorry you cannot see my keyboard, and then you press Control without removing your hand on the keyboard, and then B. You see it will turn to the black that we had used earlier. So that is the first small little thing we can do in Microsoft Word. It makes our texts bold, become big and black. And then another small hint that we can use in Word uh, is called the underlining. Many times you type a heading, you need to underline your heading, you need to do what? So we highlight that one, don't forget. And then you see here in the font ribbon, we have what we call U. U is for underlining. But when you look closer on the right of letter U, there is a drop down arrow. So this drop down arrow means there are more options inside. So when you click on that drop down, you will see that you have a couple of lines, and each line that you put your cursor, my work will be underlined, as you can see. So you can choose any of your choice. For example, I want a double line or I want a thick one, and then I choose that. When you choose that, you will see that my work is really already underlined. And then another small thing that we can do in Word is um, italicize the letters or the words in the document. This one we do not use it very often. But to give you an example, when we highlight and we come to italics here, you will see that the texts, there is a way how they are bending. They are not looking like the original text. They are bending. I am not sure in how many long circumstances do we use this, but it is just a smaller hint to give you. Maybe you can use it one day in Microsoft Word. Yes, so that is italics. It makes our letters sleep. And then another simple hint that we can use in Microsoft Word is a strike through. So a strike through happens when for example, you need to type when you have written a word and then your document is online and you want your friends to recognize that this word is not accepted or this word is not supposed to be there, instead of deleting it, or if your lecturer is reviewing your notes and he needs you to change some words, he might not be able to delete your work or do any edits, but he will strike your work through to show you that this word is not needed, things like that. So what we do, we highlight once again, and then the symbol for striking through is right here. Okay, so you see the explanation says cross something out by drawing a line through it. When you click once on the left click, you see the strike through has applied. Okay, so that is another hint in Microsoft Word. And then we also have another hint right here. So remember, when you are writing a date in Microsoft Word or when you are writing a date on paper, you always will write 10th and then you put that small th. So here, in some computers, it is a default, whereby when you write 10th, oh sorry, I have to remove my strike through such that my work is not looking like the first one, right? So when you write 10th and you put a th and then you make a space, you will see that the th goes there automatically. But at some instances, it may not go there automatically. So if it doesn't go there automatically, what do you do? What you do, for example, if you have, if you want to write 12, you write 12, and then they are still under font. There are these two small signs. This is the subscript, and then this is the superscript. So for the date, we use a superscript. You are going to realize when I click here, my mouse, the writing cursor, is going to shorten up. So that means each word I type is going to be shorter than the one at first. So this is the way how we write 10th or 12th or 13th in Microsoft Word. And then when you are typing an exam, like for a school, if you're a secretary, and then you need to write 2 base 10, 7 base 8, things like that in the schools. For example, is 3, and you are going to write the base, you use the subscript. So for the subscript, it has to go down. It doesn't need to write itself up. It writes itself down. So you write 3 base 10 or 4 base 5, things like that. And these ones, they are called scripts. We have a subscript here, and then we have a superscript here. So a subscript, as you see, the description is that type very small letters just below the line of text. And then this one should be the reverse, that type very small letters just above the line of text. So that is how we use the subscript and the superscript. Nice. So another hint that we do use in Microsoft Word here is we always change the font language or the font style. We change it. So remember, I told you whenever we are going to do something, we first highlight. We highlight all whatever thing we need to change. So when you come here to the font, you realize that there is a drop down arrow. So this drop down arrow, I told you, it means there are more options inside there. And there are very many types of languages, very many right here. So depending on which one you like, when you put your cursor on a language, you will notice that your text in the document will change, right? It will change. But the default language or the default font, many times people use the Times New Roman and the miniature or the Gothic or the Aptos or the Aptos display. These first ones, people use them much. But the most one, importantly, is the Times New Roman. So you highlight, you come to the language, and then you look for Times New Romans, and then you click it. If you do not have Times New Roman here in the recently used, you will have to scroll down right away to the alphabetical letter T, and then you will be able to find the Times New Roman here in the alphabetical orders, and then you click. So when you click, you see that our writings have changed, our texts have changed to the language. And then there's what we call the size. So the font size, this one makes the words bigger, smaller, whichever you like. But remember, first you highlight and then you come to the size here. So the default size, maximum default size is 14 here. But the default size should be 12 of any document. Please mark that. The maximum default is 14 and the default is 12. So when you choose 24 or 22 as a default size and you are finished to design your work, when I ask you or when your teacher asks you to print, the words are going to come out of the paper when they are very big, very very big. So it will not make sense if you are not printing maybe a small advert on a paper and you are printing such big letters. It always makes sense for your documented work, not an advert, or your documented work to have a 12 size. But do not forget, you highlight first, and then you come to the size, you check for 12 or maximally check for 14, right? And then yeah, that is another hint. So another hint that we can use here in the Microsoft Word is that we have this. They are called increase font and then the decrease font. So the increase font, instead of using the font size, you can just come here and continue pressing this as many times as you want, depending on how you need your text to be. So the more you press the arrow which goes up, the more it will go bigger, and you will notice that the font size they tell you now you are in 120. And when you do the reverse, the more you come and press the one that goes down, you'll see that your text becomes smaller until when they tell you, or until when you see that you have reached the size that you like, and then you say, your font size is 16. So these three, 1, 2, 3, they work hand in hand, right? Then another hint is this. This is the change case. So the change case, remember I told you whenever you see a drop down in Microsoft Word, that means there are other tools to use. So this change case, when you use this drop down, you see that we have sentence case, lowercase, uppercase, everything. So sentence case makes sure that each word is a small letter and only capitals at the beginning. That is sentence case. But when you come and use a lowercase, that means each letter, it has to be small, as you see. Each letter has to be small. And when you come again and you use a uppercase, this means each word is going to be in capital letters. That is uppercase. Each word is going to be in capital letters. So when you highlight again, and then you come here to change case and use capitalize each word, this means each word, the first letter is going to be a capital, as you can see. Two, the first one is capital, highlight, the first one is capital, and the rest they are smaller. This is capitalize each word. So when you highlight once again, and you come to toggle case, so toggle case, it's a confusing one. Some words are small, others are capital, so things like that. But this one doesn't make sense in many times. We don't use it. We only use the first one, two, three, and four. Okay, those are the ones that we use. All right, then another hint in Microsoft Word, there is this letter here, down here. But this is familiar to if you have ever heard about word art, which we shall see in the future. Word art, it is familiar to be with the something as that. So let me change my text to capitalize each word. And then another hint is right here. So this is a highlight contrast, this one. Let's see what it does. When you highlight, for example, a text like this, and then you come to the drop down here, and you click in the drop down, when you select a color, you will see that it doesn't highlight the text, but it highlights the background of the text. Okay? It highlights the background of the text, right? But there is another one right here, which is a text or font highlights. When you highlight your work and you come to the font, when you choose a color, you will now notice that this one highlights the text, but it doesn't highlight the background. Okay, I hope you have the difference here. This, the first one, the contrast, it only highlights the background where the text is. But this, for the font, it highlights the text, but it doesn't highlight the background. Okay, so we normally use this one, the highlighting color, the background highlight color, when we need to show someone a statement that this is maybe wrong, or you need to look at it further, or if we want to place a comment, things like that. This is when we highlight using this. But we normally use this many times. We always use this, the one for highlighting text. Okay. So another hint in Microsoft Word, we have uh, the paragraphs. These ones here. So the clear formatting, we don't normally use that, and then this one as well, we don't normally use it because it's not too much fundamental, unless if we become in the near future experts, that's when we shall be able to use it. And then the character borders, we don't use that one because it looks funny sometimes, so we don't use it. And then this is of course another language. It's includes characters, like if we want to type number one, number two, a number in a different language that people will either understand or not understand. So we don't use these 4, 5. We don't use them so much. All right, we do not use them so much. So another fundamental that is accepted to use, that we normally use in our daily life, we have the paragraphs. So these paragraphs, they have a lot of stuff. They have a lot of stuff. For example, we have the bullets. These bullets, when you are going to write points or when you are going to write statements, you can use bullets. You come down here to the drop down arrow and select which one you like, and then you write. So you will notice that after writing one statement and you press enter, the bullet will come automatically if you need to continue. But if you are done writing your point and you don't need more bullets, you press enter one time and then enter again, such that the bullet will go off, and then you write your work normally as you have been. That is number one. So bullets are here. We usually use them in letters or designing documents of different kinds. And the same thing also applies to these. These are numbers. If you do not want to use bullets, you use numbers like A, B, C, D, or number one, number two, number three. You just click on which one you like, and then when you press enter, number two comes, you press enter, number two goes away if you do not need to continue. And the same thing still applies here, but this one applies when you are designing like a bigger document. This is when you can use the multi-level list. Though we cannot use it so much in the simple documents, otherwise in a simple document like a 5 to 20 page, I would prefer to use a numbering and the bullets, right? So yes, that is the numbering. This is how it works. Then another default thing that we can use in Microsoft Word, there are these indents, these ones. So these decreasing and increasing indents, you can see when you increase the indent, it's like you are moving or you are creating a column or a paragraph for yourself. But these ones, they're a bit tiresome. You can just have to create a paragraph normally um, for yourself. You just type a sentence, or you can always use, there's a key on the keyboard called the tab key. When you press it, it gives you a much more extra space. So this is very important when you're creating paragraphs. For example, you press tab and then you try a paragraph, and then another time you press tab, you try a paragraph. Okay, so instead of using uh, the the increase indent and the decrease indent, they really waste some few seconds of your time. And another default important one, there is alignments. These ones, they are very much important when you want to keep your work very clean. For example, if you need to make your work centered in the page, remember I told you the first thing you do is you highlight your work, and then you come to the alignment. So this is left right now where my work is, but if I want, I can push it to the center by coming here to the center alignment and then click. So when I click, you can see my work will be distributed in the center of the page. This works so much when we are designing cover pages or the first introduction page of our maybe courseworks or something like that. This is very important. Or you can highlight again and you push your content to the right. Okay, push it to the right. So this is how it will appear on the right, like that. Okay, and then the last one is justify. So justify is to make it on the same line, but on the left but on the same line. Okay, so as here it is saying, distribute your text evenly between the margins. Justified text gives you document clean, crisp edges so it looks more polished. So everything is starting on the same line at the beginning. Everything is starting on the same line. Alright. And then another um, fundamental tool is the distributed one. This one we do not normally use it, but uh, I actually don't even think so whether I've ever seen a document that is designed in this format, whereby each letter has a space in between. So we may not use that so much in this modern world. And yeah, so another default setting here is the line spacing. So this line spacing determines the space that you have left in between the lines. For example, in between this top line and the second line, there is a space. But if you do not want to have a space in between there, remember I told you you highlight and then you come right here to the drop down arrow. You will see the types of spaces that we need to create in case we want. There is a 1.0, there is a 1.15, there is a 1.5, all of this. There is even a 3.0. But if you do not want, you just say remove space after paragraph. And you see that the space has somehow increased. Or if you want to add more space in between, you can say add space in between the paragraphs. And you will see that the space right here grows bigger. Okay. So another fundamental tool we have, this one is called the character scaling here. Character scaling. So remember I told you you highlight and then drop down means there are more options to use here. So this character scaling, uh, it transfers or it makes your work a bit disorganized in a way that, for example, when I come and I try to two lines in one and then I press OK, you will see how my work will be a bit disorganized. It will be very small and then it will not look nice. Okay, so those ones we don't use them so much. And then there's also this one, the high contrast. We saw it earlier back here. It does the same thing here. It highlights the background, but it doesn't highlight the text. So it depends where you want it to highlight. This is where you position it. And then it will highlight when you select a color. And then the last one that we may or may not use are the borders right here. The borders right here. So these ones, they're like tables. They are like tables when you want to add some tables in your work. So we shall have a look at these ones in the next lesson, but they are like tables. All right. And then another fundamental tool here we can use is editing. So before editing, we have styles. Styles, we cannot use them because we can create them manually using our own few techniques and simple steps we have learned today. So if you need like a word that looks like this, that looks like this, you just have to create it for your own self with the language, the size, and the colors right here. So you don't need to sometimes go to space to the styles and have a look at all these. No, we normally don't use these ones. And then another fundamental is the editing. So this editing, it helps you. For example, if you have a document of 100 pages or 1000 pages, and you need to find a specific word in that document. So this is when you can come to the editing and you choose find. So when you click on find, you will see that it writes itself. You have a small dialog here on the left. So for example, when I want to find a word like mouse, even before I press enter, they will highlight for me this word. Or when I want to find a word or a name of someone, Moses, they will show me where this name is. And then even on top of that, you can come back here to editing and you replace. For example, you replace. So when you come to editing, and you want to replace a word that you cannot manage to see because you have 100 pages, when you come here to replace, you will see that you have a dialogue. So find what? That is the first question. Find Moses. So when you find Moses, what do you want to replace with Moses? Replace Moses with cars. Okay. So when you're after typing that, you will say that replace all, and then you see you are done. So when you're done and you come to check, Moses has been here, but we have cars. And then Moses has been here, but we have cars. So this works when you have 100 pages, but there are specific words that you need to replace. Instead of looking through all the pages, you just use editor and then you replace the words. Or if you need to find a word that you are not sure of, you come to find and then you search the word right here on the left. And the last one I can talk about here is the dictate. So this dictate is a small symbol that was introduced in Microsoft Word a few years ago. It helps people who do not want to type. Though it is not good, you have to practice typing for your own good. So this one is dictating. You speak and it will write the word that you have spoken. Only that it works with the internet. If you don't have internet, it will not work. And you do not need to speak like the American English or the the way how you speak very fast. When you speak very fast, it will not pick some of your words. You need to be medium speaking, and where there is a comma, you put a comma. Where there is a pause, you put a pause. Yeah, so that is it. Though it is a bit tiresome. And add-ins, we do not use them so much. And the editor, this is like if you want to check for spellings and correct them out. For example, you have 3 spellings here that you need to correct. We can use that if you have more than 100 pages that have wrong words. This is when you can use it. But on the normal 2-3 page Word document, you can always correct the spellings for yourself manually. Yes, so the last thing that I want us to look at here in the home tab, we have these 4 symbols. 1, 2, 3, 4 symbols that I have not talked about. Remember, some of the symbols here, they are not normally used. So this is why today I am talking about only the default ones that we use. So there's this symbol called a paste. So pasting, it means you want to in simple terms, you want to put the same information in another place. And then we have this one which is called cut. This is you remove completely, you cut it off. And then we have copy. This means you remove a copy and then you leave the original one in the document. So let's start with the copy. For example, when I have my word here and I want to copy, so I highlight this word like this, and when I highlight it, you see that these buttons, the first 3, though the third one we don't normally use it, we use the first 2, they have become active. So when I cut, my word will disappear from here for good. But when I copy, when I click copy like this, it will stay there. But you will now realize that even the paste button is active. So when I want it to be here as well, I paste it many times. It's like you are repeating the same word in the document. You paste it many times. Copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. So we use them not too much often because you cannot copy and paste the same information on all the document, but only at a certain instance. That is when we can use them. So copy is to have a small sample of the document or of the text while the original is still there. And then paste is to let me say is to put the text you have copied in one of the document locations that you need. Alright, that is to paste. And then to cut is to remove the original text and paste it somewhere else in the document. Alright, so that is how it works. When you want to copy, is to have a small sample of a document or a text while the original is still there. Actually, it is a text sample of the text while the original is still there. And to paste is to put the text you have copied in one of the document locations that you need. And then to cut is to remove the original text and paste it somewhere else in the document. So let's give it a try. So when I want to copy, remember everything I told you in Word we highlight. So when I highlight this, the last statement, and I come to copy, I'll click copy. So when I come here, I'll come and then I paste here. Okay, I paste here. Sorry, so I will come and highlight, and then when I click copy, this means I have a copy of what I have been I wanted to paste somewhere else. So when I come here, for example here where I want to paste, I will come and then I click paste here like this. So when I click paste, you will see that I have a copy of this. There are two sentences in my work, so I'll have a copy of this right here. And then another incident is to cut. The last one is to cut. So when I highlight and I cut with this scissor, you will see that my word goes away. But still it is waiting for me to paste. That is why you see the paste button is active. So when I click here and then I press the paste like that, you will see that I have the same thing here, but below it is nowhere to be seen. Alright, thank you for attending and let's meet again. Bye bye.